Hey YouTube, how's it going? This is part of my Knicks rant that I'm starting. A little NBA talk about the New York Knicks, blah blah blah, draft, free agent plans, thoughts about the team and the team moving forward. So this is going to be the first video on that. Phil Jackson recently came out saying that he has a plan. Now this isn't like for sure. It's just the article I got it from is from Bleacher Report, and I'll try to put the link in the description. And basically, what this would say is that Phil Jackson would be coaching the Knicks only in their home games. And this plan would mean that Kurt Rambis would stay on as the coach. I don't know what would be the assistant head coach, would be the co-head coach, or whatever the title would be, but Kurt Rambis would coach the away games and Phil Jackson would coach the home games, or the Brooklyn, games against Philadelphia, games against Boston, anywhere that doesn't require a long flight, like travel that would take a while, like a Los Angeles trip or a trip to San Antonio or Dallas or Denver and such. And Carmelo Anthony recently also has come out saying that he's not okay with that. He doesn't he doesn't care. Not that he doesn't care. It's that he doesn't want Phil Jackson to step down and start in coaching, which I find really fucking weird. Like, really, Mello? Really, Mello? Really? You don't want Phil Jackson to coach you? Phil Jackson? The guy that coached Kobe and Michael? You don't want him down coaching? Even if it's for the home games? Because you're basically, in this sense, let's think about this for a second. If Phil Jackson coaches the home games, that means he's the head coach. That means that, sure, Kurt Rambis is going to be at the away games, but Phil's the head guy. And they're both going to be, they both have similar philosophies, but let's rewind. Let's rewind a few years back. Now, I believe the year was 2011, 2010 or 2011. And it was the playoffs. Phil Jackson's last year in LA. Lakers were a lower seed. I believe they were the seventh seed. They were going against the number 2 seed, Dallas Mavericks. And the Dallas Mavericks put a whooping on the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, this was the year that Kobe had Andrew Bynum as his center. Bynum was supposed to be the next big center that Kobe would have played with. And Phil Jackson's last image of LA was Andrew Bynum elbowing JJ Redick right in the chest. And after that point, Phil Jackson was thinking about leaving, about retiring. And the Lakers, wisely, were trying to come up with anything and everything to keep Phil Jackson. And I believe Phil Jackson wanted a management position, like the one, sort of like the one he has right now with the Knicks, while also being head coach. And then it came out that he wouldn't be able to travel with the team as much on the road games. And then the idea of a plan. The idea of a plan came about that Phil Jackson would coach the LA home games, play the games against Golden State, play the games against Sacramento, and any local games that would not be a burden to Phil Jackson, because he was younger, but he was getting older. Right now, he's just old, but he was getting older at the time. And that way, his assistant coaches would coach the away games. And at the time, Phil Jackson already won a couple championships with the Lakers. We knew what he did in Chicago. So ESPN, all these people, the media, they were going crazy. They're like, listen, LA, you got to do this. This is brilliant. Kobe, I think, was for it. And then then it just fell through. Phil Jackson ended up retiring, and he left the Lakers, and now he's thinking about doing the same plan with the Knicks. Back then, the Lakers were built to win championships. They didn't care. They were building to win championships. It wasn't until Phil Jackson left that the panic began to ensue. It wasn't until Phil Jackson left that they tried, oh, let's get Dwight Howard and a really old Steve Nash and try to make a big three going. And that failed. That plummeted. Like that was, and the worst part was you had, I believe Mike D'Antoni was a coach, and they picked him over Phil Jackson. Now I think Mike D'Antoni was the interim, then became full-time head coach, which the Lakers spurned Phil Jackson for, which is another story for another day. But they had talent while Phil Jackson was there. So Brian Shaw, I believe, was the assistant. And Phil Jackson would have stayed. Brian Shaw would have coached the away games. And at first it was a good idea. But the problem was, well, not the problem, the difference is that the Lakers had talent. They had players they had Kobe, they had they had Derek Fisher. They had players who already were used to winning. The problem with this Knicks team is that the only player who is used to winning on this team is Carmelo Anthony. And he's only been to the Western Conference Finals 1 year, and that was the year before he demanded a trade to the Knicks. That's it. He had one 52-win season with the Knicks a few years ago, and that was just, here's the NBA gods, as they would say. The NBA gods just throw the Knicks a bone. Oh, you got some talent on the team. Finally. Here's the 50-win season. Let's see what you can do with that. They ended up losing to the Pacers. Now, if this roster doesn't have the players that could fit into the triangle offense, and the issue with that now, especially with free agency fresh into the Knicks' mind because they don't have a first-round draft pick, with the record, they don't have a chance at a Ben Simmons or any of those type of players. So they can't get anyone in the draft, even if they decide to pull off some trade like they did last year to get 2 first-round picks when they got Jerami Grant. The Knicks are focusing on free agency. The problem is that the triangle offense before in the past was linked to the Lakers' success. The Lakers would continually make the playoffs. They would continually be a championship contender under Phil Jackson, under the triangle. The Knicks, on the other hand, have consistently been losing, consistently sucked under the triangle offense. And you look at players like Arnold Fallow, he has a player option for next year. He's probably going to opt out. You got players like Derek Williams, Lance Thomas, Lou Amundsen, Langston Galloway. These players might not come back. So yeah, you might have $30 million in cap space, but all you're going to have is Melo, Barone, Calder, Kristaps Porzingis, Robin Lopez, and probably Kyle O'Quinn. So that means you have to find new shooting guard, new point guard, and a bench. And you have to fill all those voids with players who can thrive or just play decently in the triangle offense. And that will be very difficult, especially with Phil Jackson coming out and saying that the one point guard Carmelo's been trying to get on the Knicks since he's gotten there, Rajon Rondo, would be a horrible fit in the triangle offense, says a lot. And the reason I say that is Carmelo Anthony's going to go up to Phil Jackson and say, I really want Rondo. I don't give a damn how bad or how much of a cancer he's been on other teams. I want Rajon Rondo. Because since Boston was making him available, dingling here, dingling there, Melo wanted the Knicks to get him. He wanted the Knicks to give up whatever it took to get Rajon Rondo, and the Knicks weren't able to get him. The Knicks might be in play for him this year, but I don't think they're gonna get him. They might get Brandon Jennings. They might get Bazemore. Again, these aren't. Durant's not going to New York. Mike Conley's not going to New York. DeMar DeRozan isn't leaving Toronto. LeBron James is most likely going to opt out, but he's probably just going to come right back in once he sees Cleveland making the sufficient, the sufficient moves to help LeBron win a championship at Cleveland. Jackson, as much as his decision making has been questioned in the past, you can't really question that he's valuing cap space and he's valuing future assets. Because if that wasn't the case, the minute Kristaps Porzingis became big, the minute Kristaps Porzingis was Porzingod, anyone else would have traded him immediately for assets. Immediately. Maybe not in December, but closer to the February trade deadline, especially with the same record the Knicks had before the trade deadline. They were right there, but they weren't in the playoffs yet. Any other management would have, any other GM, any other president of basketball operations may, I'm not talking about in general, I'm talking about in Knicks past. In the Knicks past, any other GM in the Knicks past would have traded Kristaps Porzingis. All future assets, all young players, anyone that isn't owed. The best way I can put it, anyone who wasn't an 85 overall or higher in NBA 2K, they would have been traded. They would have tried to done everything and everything to get Carmelo Anthony a ring, and it would have been an absolute shit show. Staying in the New York area to coach the home games or the Brooklyn games, Philly games, Boston games. I think it's a good idea. Hell, if I was Carmelo Anthony, I'd just go up to asking Kobe. Kobe, think it's a good idea? You know what Kobe's gonna say? You know what Kobe's gonna say? Hell fucking yes, it's a good idea. You get this man to coach you. He's gonna win you rings. He's gonna get the best out of everybody. Oh, but Kurt Rambis is gonna come back. Kurt Rambis. Listen. Everyone says Kurt Rambis. He didn't see the potential Kevin Love had. Are we seeing the potential Kevin Love has right now with the Cavs? Because when the Cavs traded him, it was this huge deal. Oh my God. Kevin Love to the Cavs? They're definitely going to win a championship now. They're championship contenders. Gord. Really? Really? And you. I've been saying this since the finals ended. Since the finals began last year, the finals ended. Not to YouTube or Twitter or any social media. The reason Cleveland lost to Golden State in the NBA Finals is because they lost Kyrie Irving. Now, you can say whatever you want about Kyrie's defensive prowess right now this season, but in the NBA Finals, you wanted Kyrie Irving to defend Steph Curry. Steph Curry versus Kyrie Irving would have gotten that game to 7 games. We would have gotten that series to 7 games. And the Cleveland Cavaliers may be champions right now if Kyrie Irving didn't get injured. That's just my opinion. You can disagree in the comments section. That's just me. But I truly, honestly believe that Kyrie Irving would have helped the Cavs win a championship if he was healthy. Which is why it's a big deal he's healthy this year. It's a big deal why I think they should keep him healthy until the playoffs. Now, this means that Phil Jackson coaching next year with all the home games and not the away games. Does this mean they have to bring one more star player? Convince a star player like Durant to leave Oklahoma City? Probably near third sure thing to make the playoff. Not to make the playoffs, excuse me. To make the finals? Because, right, I'm all for it. And Melo needs to smarten up. Why would he deny it? Unless the only reason Carmelo Anthony would say, I don't want Phil Jackson to coach the New York Knicks is because he's met with Phil Jackson before, and Phil Jackson has said, we're going to keep Kurt Rambis, or I'm going to bring in a new guy to coach you, Carmelo. That's the only other explanation for Carmelo Anthony to be denying Phil Jackson to coach the Knicks. Because everyone else, history has shown, Phil Jackson can still coach. He's trying to coach as an executive. That's why he hired Derek Fisher. He wanted to bring in a fresh, new mind, a guy who's never coached before, and say, I'm going to build me a coach. I'm going to bring in a rookie coach. I'm going to put him under my wing, and I shall teach him how to fly like an eagle. And we know how that ended up. That's my thoughts. This is my Knicks rant. I'm the Latino nerd. See you later.